Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes.
Went down to Waimea Bay. What a fantastic sunny day. Boys and girls hanging round. Surfers going up and down. That's when I caught my wave. Knew what to do. Surf that wave right to the shore. And yes, dreams come true.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Quivercast. I am Mike, your host. Let's get into the show. All right, welcome back to the Quivercast, everyone. We have Austin Smith Ford here with us. What's up?
What's up? What's up,
How you
Quiver
doing?
Killers? Good, man. Thanks for having me in.
Yeah, stoked. Thank you for doing this. How are the waves up there in Santa Cruz right now?
Well, this week had a pretty big storm, kind of like the first sort of multi-day storm of the season. So it's kind of chunky and south wind and not so good. But yeah, we've had a pretty solid run. This whole fall's been pretty epic with good conditions, and I'm sure kind of same down by you, but we're a little further north, so we've been getting a lot of north swells already. It's been fun.
Let me ask you this. Being in Santa Cruz, there's a lot of nooks and crannies. Will that block the south wind, or are you still screwed? A little further north or south of town, maybe?
There's like a couple little spots where you can kind of get away from it, but the way the whole bay is shaped, it's sort of, most of us face pretty much like south wind is just straight on us.
Yeah.
So you can go like kind of down south or north of Santa Cruz and kind of escape it. But we're kind of, south wind is not our friend up here. Yeah, we're a bit screwed.
Kind of. All right. And Santa Cruz, you grew up there, right?
I did, yeah. I grew up on the east side of Santa Cruz, so like the Pleasure Point area. When I was younger, I grew up like living in Capitola, so it's even like further east.
Yeah. How's that wave in Capitola? Does that get good?
Yeah. It's kind of the perfect Grom wave. So like we have a little jetty down there that used to get, I think, a bit better when I was younger because the rocks were sort of all pushed together before the waves like spread them all out. So now the sand doesn't quite build up the same. But we got like a little kind of like a little mini harbor type setup, and then there's sort of like a bit of a mushy left and right out the back. So it's a pretty cool little Grom wave and longboard wave for the most part, but the right swell, you can kind of sneak down there when it's too big everywhere else and get a pretty fun session.
Does it shrink it down a lot? Or like, let's say like steamers or pleasure points, like double overhead, triple overhead, can you get the like a head high wave there?
Yeah, something smaller? Like that. It's like Santa Cruz is super directional. So like sometimes on like a big, super long, like 20-second ground swell that's like filling in, it'll be like 2 at 20. Everything like Steamer Lane and even like Pleasure Point and everything will almost be like not really quite doing it yet. But the way that the swell comes in like way down where Capitola is, like way in the bay, it gets there first. So it'll be pumping down there and then it sort of like makes its way up. It's kind of, it's trippy.
Wow. What's your favorite wave in Santa Cruz? Do you have a favorite wave in town?
Tons of good waves. Like, I mean, just my favorite wave that is sort of just known is like the Hook.
Oh, okay.
We have this wave called the Hook. It's sort of like on the southern end of Pleasure Point. It's sort of the last, I guess like you'd kind of call it the last part of Pleasure Point.
Yep.
Just a super, probably the most rippable wave we have. It's just like a perfect little right. Yeah, good air sections, nice pace, because like a lot of our points are fun, but they're a bit slower. Okay. Lots of cutbacks, you got to kind of work for it. But that's sort of one of the more lined up ones that And then, yeah, we have a lot of good waves around other places that, just kind of get good on their novelty days. But yeah, we don't need to say any names, but we got some spots that are pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, so the Hook, can it get any more crowded? In the parking lots, that little parking lot, it's so insane there.
Yeah, I didn't think like 10 years ago that it could get any more crowded. And then the whole world has proved me wrong time and time again with crowds.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's just happened everywhere, like post-COVID times. There's just so many new surfers and people that haven't been around for very long in the surf scene, but they come in super hot and don't really understand that they don't really understand that there should be beginner places. The Hook is sort of doomed because it's off 41st Avenue, which comes straight from the freeway. So you can get off from either, over 17, which is like San Jose, Los Gatos, or from, the South County, and that's sort of everyone's first stop. And then the street 41st goes directly into the Hook with a big parking lot. So it's not really like hidden, and there's surf shops directly there. It's sort of like, it's just the Mecca where anybody who might not even be trying to find the coast will find it. Yes. And then
dead ends.
Just yeah, it's sort of like the perfect storm. It's East Cliff's a one-way street that goes directly to the Hook, and then 41st comes the other way. So it just kind of, it does just sort of dead ends right there. And the crowds are crazy. The Santa Cruz has changed so much since I was a kid. And like I was saying, the last like 5 years especially, it's just gone from sort of like a little more of a core surf scene to, it's I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It's a free for all shit show. Yeah, 100%. And these new surfers, I would almost compare it to like when Columbus and whatever discovered America. They did not want to. They didn't want to take the old ways into consideration. They just said that, oh, we're here now, and this is how surfing's going to be. So
insane.
Not to say that they're like raping and pillaging the waves, but in a way they kind of are.
I don't know. Maybe they are. Yeah. They ruin it for anyone that's surfed for any amount of time.
Yeah. I'm not trying to discourage people from surfing. I think it's great. I just think that education needs to be a part of it because it's really dangerous these days. I don't know. It's like you wouldn't get behind a NASCAR and go on a track your first day surfing, right? But these people rent a board from the surf shop and they walk out and they think like, oh, look, that's where the good surfers are. I'm going to paddle straight there. And then they can't control their board. They can't duck dive. They can't paddle. And then it's just, they're in danger. They're putting you in danger. And then if you say anything to them, then you're the bad guy. So I don't know. It's a crazy world. You can't really get mad at anyone anymore, it seems like.
I feel like I've talked about the subject a lot, and it doesn't change. But is there a way to fix this from your perspective? Since we're talking about it, we might as well ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I teach some surf lessons up here, and try to whenever I have new students, I just try to make sure that education is a huge part of it. It's not just, we're going to go out and have the most fun today and catch every single wave that comes at us, no matter who's on it. It's like when I'm with a student and I'm there, I kind of put like myself in their shoes, and I want them to know that, okay, even if today we're going to sit right here, if you come back out next week and I'm not with you, you need to be sitting at this part of the peak where this is where you learn. And I have students that, they've been surfing for a year or 2 years and they're like, I want a hard board. And I'm like, no, you're actually not at that level. Like you can't control your surfboard. And I watch you hit people and, almost hit people all the time. So until you can completely have 100% confidence that you're going to be able to dodge the other surfers, you can't be on a hard board because that's dangerous. So, it's not a perfect solution. Surfing gets chaotic and even the best surfers run into people sometimes.
Of course.
But I think the main thing that we can do is have sort of a a steeper, longer like learning curve where these people sort of need to be like put in a beginner wave, right? Where I don't know, there's just no regulation. Like I was kind of saying before, it's like you wouldn't buy your first football and go expect to hop on the NFL like
Right.
stadium and play with the big leagues. I don't know. It's just so yeah. I'd say if we can do anything, like maybe someday we need to have ocean referees, something like that. Like that's kind of a crazy
That's not a
idea.
bad idea. Yeah.
But yeah, we've talked about that where it's like, hey, you just almost murdered someone with your surfboard. Like you get a yellow card, and if the referee sees you do it one more time, like you got to go get beached, and or like some sort of like a law enforcement, or they can actually write tickets or have some sort of a school where you have to actually have a permit that you can pass a test and show that you have the skills to be at certain breaks, like something along those
I
lines.
like the idea.
Yeah.
I like your idea, but do we really want the law in the ocean? Because that opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, it's like 20 years ago we had the law in the ocean, but it was our own law.
Well, that's
it
what I'm
was
saying.
Like,
but
yeah,
we're talking about
so,
the law, the
the
lifeguards or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a slippery slope because before, when surfers were able to self-regulate and
right.
you paddled out to a place where you didn't really belong, you were pretty quickly told if you didn't respect the rules, then you were pretty quickly shown, some sort of a repercussion, and it wasn't always very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But, people learned pretty quickly. Like even when I was a kid, I didn't paddle out to the peak at Sewer Peak, which is like sort of the top spot at the point, because you were a Grom. You sat on the inside, and if you even looked at one of the boys' waves, like you were not going to get beat up, but you were going to get either snapped on or dunked or pretty much like put back in your place, which how I grew up, that was fine. Like I was totally fine with that. And you move your way up and you get a little better and you get a little more respect at certain spots. And that's just how surfing was. Whereas now, if you even like splash a kid, like their parents on the cliff with a camera calling the cops. Yeah. It's like, it's crazy what's going on. It's like soccer moms and dads and everybody's just so soft. And I don't know. It just, surfing's in a weird place and it kind of bums me out sometimes, but that's also part of life is, evolving. And some of it's really good, I guess, for our whole culture because we have more surfers than ever, but we don't have more waves than ever. The waves are still the same. So where does everybody go?
Let's talk about that. There's more surfers than ever, and I know you don't really surf contests that much or anymore at all. The up and coming pro surfers are making less money than ever before. Yet there's more wetsuits being sold, more trunks.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. Sense. I feel bad for the super young generation that's like really trying to make a push at pro surfing right now. Cause unless you're, just top 5% of the surfing world, you're not even making enough to even close to get by. I did the announcing for the Coldwater Classic that we just had here.
Yep.
And, that's like not a huge event. It's just a 1,000. So like kind of the lowest of the QSs, but still like first place was only $2,500.
Insane.
I think you had to make 2 or 3 rounds in the men's to even make $1 back. And so if you're coming from the East Coast or even Southern California.
Like Michael that won, right? Like Michael Dunphy won.
Yeah, so he probably, I think he had some friends to stay with. Yeah, if you didn't, you'd be still spending your own money just to get to the event. And that's if you win. That's one person. Right. So, yeah, got a little lucky. The money was a little better when I was a kind of a junior and into my 20s. But I think the guys before us even had it better. Like, they would have these crazy purses in contests. And it's still maybe like not that much more money than we have now, but 30 years ago with inflation, it was way more.
Insane. I mean, I don't know where surfing's going, but let's go back to your earlier conversation about the hook. So, what's the average day at the hook? 2 foot, 3 foot, maybe? But it does get pumping.
It's kind of one of those waves that never really gets like above like 4 to 6 foot, like 6. Yeah. And that's still like a California 6 foot. Like it never gets like 6 foot Hawaiian, whatever you want to call it. But it's one of those waves where it needs a bit of swell. So like on your average, whatever, 2 to 3 foot swell day, like it's going to be really small.
Yep.
And that's almost like its downfall too, is everybody gets like all the beginners go there on those days, which is fine. Like they can have those days, but then when the swell comes up, they're like, oh yeah, the spot that I surf is the hook. And then you're like, okay, well now it's a real wave. And all of a sudden you got all these buoys that you're trying to surf between and boards flying at your head and stuff.
That's my point. Exactly. When it starts to get good, these guys still think, oh, there's a difference between growing up surfing, I believe. And I know it's kind of unfair, but the truth of the matter is, if you grew up as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, even a 13-year-old, you learn etiquette and so forth. These 30-year-olds that are starting to surf can't wrap their head around it.
Yeah. No, and they're coming from
San Jose,
especially a lot of them here up in Santa Cruz, like they're coming from these like tech backgrounds where, they might be the top dog at their office or whatever. I make lots of money, so I should be able to do this. And I just bought a house down the street. So I'm, which is fine. Like I'm not saying like, don't come to Santa Cruz. Like I'm not that guy. I try to be nice to everybody, but when people start putting everybody in danger, but then not getting it when you try to just like educate them, then it sort of gets on my nerves. Cause it's like, no, like this isn't like, you can't just call someone yells at you here.
HR.
Yeah. You can't call HR like out in the water, but they try to have that sort of a mentality. Like you can't yell at me. Like I'm this and this. And you're like, well, look, I was yelled at my entire life. And now I'm finally at a point where I feel like I'm sort of on the top of the pecking order. And all of a sudden I'm back to the bottom because all these adult learners
You're outnumbered.
think that everybody's equal. Everybody gets equal opportunity in the water. And it's like, it's not really an equal opportunity sport.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
all right.
Crazy world.
We've talked about this enough, but I mean, yeah, it is sad, but it is funny. Some of your videos, your Instagram videos, one is at the hook where the two soft top dudes are just getting slammed into the staircase.
Oh yeah. We have like this crazy, like, so we built like Santa Cruz County built this seawall 10, 15 years ago, something like that. And since then, I think it messed up the natural, geography of the way.
Makes sense.
Like water can't go like under the caves like it used to. And it sort of broke the power of the swell up. And the way that they built the seawalls at some of the staircases, I swear the engineers like were masochists or something. They did it on purpose where the waves just create this like cauldron of death, like waves coming from all ways at high tide. And yeah, that's another thing that goes back to ocean safety and education. Like these people show up on a south swell at lower tide. South swell here, like sometimes we have 20-minute lulls, 30-minute lulls.
Right.
And
stacks of lines.
Yeah. And then there'll be a 20-minute set.
Yeah.
And so these guys paddle out when, the waves are small today, low tide. Right. They paddle out easy. They get out. Yeah, and then all of a sudden the tide comes in and the swell builds. And then they're out there like, oh
shit.
Wait, where'd that beach go that we came out on? And that beach is now that cauldron of death. And it's gnarly. Like I'm scared coming in there and I know how to do everything right. And I've seen it my entire life. So these people who come in winded after 2-3 hours, they're tired. They can't paddle anymore. They didn't know how to paddle to begin with. They don't know how to time a wave. They don't know how to time a set. And they're just like literally put themselves in the gnarliest position. And so now we have our firefighters down there every single swell, like every single swell with high tide. They're there with the jet skis. And the other day they had the fire truck with a whole crane and they were manually lifting surfers one by one out of the water on stretchers. Yeah. And so this is how we're spending our tax dollars is, saving these people's lives. And then they don't even get reprimanded. They don't get charged for it. And then they're right back out there the next day. I swear it's like you see the same group of goons who just don't learn a lesson because they now know that they're going
to get rescued.
there's no downfall. They're just like, oh, well, if we get
No
stuck out
consequences.
here, the lifeguards are going to show up. They're going to save us, and we'll just come back, next swell and do it again. And I'm sort of like a firm believer in like, if you can't get yourself in, you should just stay out until low tide. And you might get cold and you might be bummed, but like, hey, you got yourself in that situation, and maybe you should check the tides, learn how to read a chart, have an exit plan.
Yeah.
There sort of needs to be. Yeah.
Did you ever, as a Grom, surfing, let's say the hook or sewer pipes or whatever, the swell picked up? Did you ever have to like have a game plan, like to paddle into Capitola or something like that? Like anything like that ever happened?
Definitely. I have one situation, like when I was probably, I don't know, 13 or something, where I took my friend out, and I was like a little bit better of a surfer than him, but we were still Groms.
Yeah.
It's not like I was like this like ocean master, but I could sort of handle myself, and I'd surf there a bit more. And I went out with my friend, and I swear it probably only got, like I said, the hook doesn't really get big, but it went from like 3 feet to like 6 feet within a couple hours, like almost like a Hawaii swell where you're like, whoa, this is not the same day anymore. I like somehow made it in, got to the shore, and I was scared, like probably a bit crying, or I don't know, whatever it was. I was a little kid, and my mom was there, and she was just like, where is Eric? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen him in an hour. Like, it got huge out there. I think we were like pretty much ready to tell his mom that he like didn't make it. Like, we were freaking out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He washed in, I think, down to privates, which is like the next, it's a ways down, but you can almost always kind of sneak over that way and get in. It's probably like half a mile down the way.
Mm-hmm.
But that one sticks out as far as me being a kid. And that was probably the most scared I'd been at that point. I had a student that is just notorious for, she's scared of the high tides coming in and out. We were at privates one time, and she just wouldn't come in. Like, I was trying to show her like, hey, it's really easy right here. Like, come on in. Like, you got this. Like, you just got to do it. Like, getting in is always easier because you get pushed in, and then I can grab you. And she wouldn't come. So she paddled to Capitola, which is like, which is far. It's like, it's probably close to a mile, and on a shortboard, and you're already tired. So she washed up on the sand that day, and I think she started kissing the sand. Like, she couldn't believe she was there. But I drove the car down and picked her up, and I was like, well, you didn't want to come in up there. So, I think she kind of learned her lesson that day. But yeah,
that's funny. And your students, are they repeat students, or is this like a one-time surf lesson?
Sometimes I'll get like the occasional one-time lesson, but I like to do more coaching, where it's like, it's continued students. So yeah, I got like a little roster of people kind of all ages, from the Groms that are surfing real well, all the way up to like 60-year-old, adult learners. And they're all super fun in their own way. And I enjoy all of them because everyone's just progressing at such different speeds. And so it's cool to see the young kids and their, and then I get to announce the contests that they're in as well. So I get to see sort of like what we've been working on and see how they're applying it to that sort of aspect. And then I also got the adults who, a win for them might be catching 3 waves and riding them successfully. And that's a great day. And so it's cool to see the whole full board of it.
I think it does make a difference with someone like you, or an established surfer, really good surfer like you, but makes sense because you're kind of giving them the etiquette and teaching them the right and wrongs. But when they're just paddling out, it's just a shit show. It's just so bad. I don't know what to say about that.
That's like kind of part of the reason why I'm happy to do it, is because all my students, they sort of get, like, I reprimand them if they're doing dumb shit. Like, they're getting like a timeout, like not physically putting them in a corner, but it's like, hey, you just did this. Like, now you don't get to do that again, whatever the consequence is, sometimes it's just push ups, sometimes it's jumping jacks, something like that. Yeah. Just teaching them that, like, we're sitting here, and I know you see people that you surf better already out at the peak, but we're also watching as they're in everyone's way, and they're falling on people, and they're being dangerous. And so until we master this area, then we can move up there, but not until then. So I wish more people would take surf, lessons. We have some good schools up here, and we have a lot of people that want to share knowledge, but a lot of people are headstrong and they think that they can do it all themselves, or, you know, maybe they don't have the money, and that I totally understand because it's not cheap to get a bunch of surf coaching.
No, I
But
get that too.
But, you know, like a lot of these people have plenty of money and they're just being sort of selfish in a way where they're willing to put everyone else in danger to save a couple bucks. And that just to me is sort of not cool.
Was the staircase there when you started surfing at the Hook?
The staircase at the Hook was there, but not at the Point. Yeah, the Point had this like super sketchy, like sort of like a switchback. Like you had to, it had this like old rusty bar, and it was kind of like almost like chiseled in the cliff. It was just like part of the cliff.
Okay.
It was epic. If you had a longboard, it was really hard to get down. So
and that was good to keep the longboards up.
Oh, it was great. Yeah. And at that point, like all the boys were basically like all the generation above me who were kind of gnarly, you know, like partiers, drinkers, and somehow like back then didn't seem to ever have work and would just be sitting on the rail right above that staircase at all times, heckling and yelling at, you know, kooks. And it was almost like a gnarly thing just to get down. If you were not liked in that little community, like you weren't really going to almost be let down from times. Or if you were, like, if you had a longboard, that we'd throw ice plants at you, kind of like just like
totally intimidating them.
Yeah, just intimidating. And people straight up didn't come down there. And then as soon as that staircase was built, it was like the gentrification of the Point just went tenfold. And like now anybody can just walk straight down. There's a perfect staircase. You hop right out and you're at the lineup. And yeah, it's too easy. We made it too easy on everyone. Now there's talk that the next spot up, which is Sewer Peak, they're making a staircase just like that right down to the water there. So that's going to be a whole new generation of people that know how to get in the water up there. Because right now you still have to, they made a new staircase that's like, okay, but it's still at the bottom of it. You have to climb down some really sketchy, slippery rocks. So like, it's even gnarly for me. Like I'm scared every time. It's so slippery, the moss and but yeah, apparently they're going to take all that out in the next year and put a staircase that drops you right into the water, which is going to change everything for that place now too.
So who gives the thumbs up for the staircase? Is it the city council, or?
I guess it's got to be. Like that's the thing is, like, you know, we're sort of uninformed surfers and we complain about all the things happening, but we don't go to the city council meetings, and that's, you know, part of the problem. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm part of the issue because I don't go to the meetings either. But I don't think it would matter anyway. Like they're just doing it as like, oh, it's public safety. Like But even these staircases that they've been building, like they get battered with swell and they're sort of falling apart. They're almost dangerous. Like there's some rebar on the stairs that are popping up after the big storms last year, and I don't know. They're not really taking much time to really assess the damages, and they're sort of just leaving it. So I don't know. It's almost more dangerous now.
Yeah. I wonder if the city council, if any surfers are on there or anybody that knows the ocean, are these guys just living in their house and making these rules?
Yeah. But like I said, like it seems like whoever engineered the seawall didn't take into consideration the way it was going to create this crazy like wedgy backwash thing, because it made it pretty sketchy. But I should look into it. You're right. I should look into it.
We'll talk about some other things. You got a lot of surf videos on YouTube and stuff. Do you enjoy making videos?
Yeah, I do like making edits. I actually don't do it as often as I should. Like I have so much footage from trips, and I always like mean to make an edit, and then I just never get around to it. Now I'm sort of just been like going through clips that was planning to edit and putting it on Instagram, because it's just nobody even wants to take 3 minutes to watch an edit anymore, unless it's like some crazy John edit or something. But yeah, I enjoy like making surf kind of comedy too, like doing some skits and stuff like that. We
like the Skittles rapper video.
Yeah. That was
great.
Thanks. Yeah, that was sick. So that was for a series that we were doing up here that my friend one of my best friends, Kyle Boothman, is a filmmaker, and
Yep.
we did like Get Rad 1, Get Rad 2, Get Rad
No, I've
3,
seen
and
them.
that was
Yeah.
yeah.
Such good
And
movies.
so yeah, it's just super fun to get the whole community in, and there's talks of Get Rad 4 actually happening this year. So
Hell
keep an eye out. We'll keep you guys posted if it actually happens. I hope it does, because it's been, I think, like 10 years since Get Rad 3. We finally have like a crazy group of upcoming Groms here.
Sweet.
And it's kind of time to pass the torch down. We got some cool ideas to include the next generation, and then even the generation in between the real Groms and us. Now we got some mid-20s guys that are gnarly. Just be cool to like get SC back on the map, because I feel like we sort of like had this really big like intro from, you know, the Flea and Barney era and Rat Boy, those guys, and they put Santa Cruz like so well on the map, and everybody sort of piggybacked off that for a while. It's sort of like got a bit quiet up here. We sort of, I don't know, lost our roots a bit, and it's just easy to get sort of lost with surfing these days. There's so much content coming from everywhere. Yeah, so it'd be cool. Like, even if it didn't, you know, go like global, which obviously all these movies have been kind of local movies, but it would just be fun to do it again, and I hope that we make it happen this year.
Dude, I hope you guys do. Would you guys like do a premiere and everything, like a movie night kind of in town?
We would 100% do a big night up here. Those were always some of the best nights. Yeah. Movie premieres in Santa Cruz are always super fun, because like even now the community will come out for a big premiere. But it's so easy to get stuck on the couch in 2023 when you have everything at your fingertip. If you're just not feeling it, or it's a cold night, like it's really easy to not go out up here.
Are you talking for yourself, or you just think in general for the population?
I just think in general, like, you know, like for myself also, but I just think like surf premieres don't seem to be like what they were in the early 2000s, because the only way you could see that content was by going out and checking it out. Whereas now you're like, oh, well, if I don't go to the premiere, it'll probably be online next week.
Right.
YouTube, so it's not a big deal if I miss it. Whereas before you'd have to wait months and months to maybe see it on a DVD or something.
Right. But going in person, you're hanging out with your buddies, or even people you haven't seen in 10 years, 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
You guys, hope you guys do it. That'd be so rad. Love surf movies.
That's cool that you've even seen those movies, because, you know,
yeah, they're funny, dude.
Yeah, sick. Thanks.
Yeah, stoked on that. What about the rapping part? Was that hard for you to do? Did that come natural?
No, it actually came like way too easy. I feel like it was like almost, it was so natural that it was easy, because I've always been into rap and hip hop, and
okay.
I like to like, you know, freestyle here and there, just like for fun, like not like performing. But I think I wrote that whole thing in like 20-30 minutes, and then
you wrote it. I didn't even asking that.
I wrote the whole rap, and then one of my buddies helped record it, because he had a little recording studio, and I think we did it like second take, and it was just super flawless. And then we recorded the whole music video in like one day, just going around town, like doing just funny stuff. If you haven't seen it, it's like, I think it's little Skittle, Taste the Rainbow, and then I think you got to type in like surf Santa Cruz or something, and it pops up.
They can just punch your name in and it shows up.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Super easy. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Did you put aluminum foil on your teeth or something?
Oh yeah. I had the aluminum foil grill, because at that time, like grills were super popular.
Yes.
And so I had the grill, the chains, and we even took it out in the water. It was super fun. I love doing stuff like that. I've actually thought about it more and more recently, because I've always sort of done those sort of skits for little videos here and there, but I see so many people making funny content on the internet now, and I'm like, oh, I could probably do like better skits than this, but I just sort of, I don't know, I just never get around to it, or I think of the idea, but I'd like to get some sort of like almost like a surf comedic page, kind of like the Raglan Surf Report.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, because I really like those guys' content, and I follow it pretty closely. I think I have some pretty good ideas to sort of parody off of what's going on in the surf scene around here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That could be
or
good.
even,
That sounds like good content.
Yeah. I think it'd be pretty entertaining. Yeah. So we'll see. Keep another ear out
To
for
be
that.
announced.
It could become an Austin Meets World.
If you do that or you and your buddies decide to go do that, let me know. Come on. Because that sounds
that'd be sick.
fun, dude. So back in the day, how did you start surfing? Like, was it easy come, or did you have to like ask your parents to surf? Or like, how'd it go?
Yeah. So, I mean, coming from Santa Cruz, it is a beach town. It's a surf town. And my dad was into surfing, but he wasn't really in the picture too much. And my mom was just a beach lady. She loved going to the beach every day. And I think that was just a pretty easy segue into, skimboarding and boogie boarding, just playing in the ocean as a kid. And then I think just kind of the natural progression, you get sick of being on your stomach, you start standing up on the boogie board, and then you see the surfers. So yeah, I started kind of like dabbling in surfing, around like 7, 8, 9, kind of that age, but didn't really have anyone to take me out. I think I got a surfboard, but it was just an old single fin, like not like these kids now who are they're 6 years old with the perfect custom Lost, and they're basically like groomed to be a pro surfer from day one. Like it was so much different, I feel like, back then, and especially up here in Santa Cruz, like we didn't have the surf industry to look at. We just went surfing and we just loved surfing. And I think in a way that's almost better because it came naturally. And so then in my teen years, like 11, 12 into 13, like I was still skating and BMX biking and doing all sorts of stuff. But then surfing sort of started taking a little more of a front seat.
Why did that happen?
I don't know.
Were your friends surfing? Or like, what motivated
a little
you?
bit. Like, I think I just liked it. I was playing a lot of soccer when I was younger, and I wanted to be a pro soccer player. That was my original dream.
Game plan.
Game plan. Exactly. But then I sort of was over the team aspect, and the politics of the team sports just started getting to me. And I was sort of like also into surfing and skating. And then I was like, oh, well, I can do this on my own whenever I want. I don't have to go to practices, and I don't have to, deal with coach drama and whatever it was. And so I just started surfing more and more. And then, got some friends that surfed a bit. And then, it just kind of took off. And then I got sort of lucky, I guess. Like people started seeing that I surfed well a little bit and got a couple sponsors here and there. I don't know. I feel like once you get a sponsor as a little kid, you're like, oh, I got to rip. I got to perform for my sponsors, even though it was like a t-shirt and a sticker pack. You thought you were the guy.
You thought you were the guy, you said, but, and it probably helped you surf better, boosting your ego kind of thing, maybe?
Yeah. Like an ego boost, but also just like a little confidence boost. Like
confidence also. Yes.
Yeah. Just to be like, I don't know. I honestly I don't remember as much as I should from my childhood. It's so long ago now. Yeah. But my mom makes fun of me all the time. She'll bring up all these things like, oh, you remember when we did this, or you remember when you did that? And I'm like, I honestly don't remember that, like not even a little bit. And so, I don't know. Maybe I just fell on too many waves or hit my head too many times. But I don't remember a lot of details from like early on somehow.
But I guess the other part of that question is, did it put pressure with you being sponsored so young? Or do you think it was more just added to your confidence?
My mom was pretty supportive with just like letting me sort of like run with it. And I think that early on, I still wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm a pro surfer. I'm going to be a pro surfer. I was still just surfing, and I was still just having fun. And then
it was all for the love.
Yeah, it was more like when I was 16, and that's when I somehow got the cover of Surfing magazine,
yes.
Which was just like, I'd never even had a shot in a magazine. My first photo in a magazine was the cover of Surfing magazine, which at the time was as big of, the biggest magazine in pretty much. Like it didn't get any bigger. And I got the cover, a 2-page spread, and like I think it was called First Look, like an interview, all in one magazine. Yes. And so like, then I was like, whoa, I knew or thought I'd been surfing pretty well. And I was super stoked on how I was surfing, but I didn't really think that it would all of a sudden be like that.
Yeah.
And that sort of like put me onto this international level, like instantly, where like people recognize my name and sort of like industry people from Southern California and whatever it was. And so that sort of like completely changed my world, like in a 180. And I think I was a junior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was sort of like all of a sudden like, oh, whoa, like, could I do this? And so, because I was still totally planning on going to college, I was totally planning on just doing the kind of standard path of, you know, high school, college. I was a surfer, but I wasn't planning to be a pro surfer. From there, I started getting not like bad pressure, but I was sort of like, okay, like if I'm going to do this, I sort of need to go all in. And then 1 year later, like almost to the day, I got the cover of Transworld Surf, which at the time was also super huge. That was like the second biggest mag in America besides maybe Surfer. So then it was just this like crazy trajectory of like, oh, sponsors, this, that. And like at that time, there was still sponsor money to be had for like a low level pro or whatever, making a name for yourself. And so, yeah, I kind of got this like just luck. Like, I don't know how it worked. Like I got super fortunate. Like Nate Lawrence took the photo of surfing, and then Dave Nelson Nelly took the Transworld shot. And so like those guys were obviously really established photographers.
Yes.
So I was just lucky enough that they're both from Santa Cruz, wanted to work with me. And I sort of was just there with all the older boys, like this little kid. They were always sort of like, you know, welcoming, and Adam Pogel helped me a lot to like get in with that whole crowd. He sort of took me under his wing. Once he sort of gave me the green light, everyone else sort of had to like let me start hanging around. And so, yeah, it just sort of like just snowballed. And all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I guess I'm a pro surfer now. Like started making money, and I was just like, this is sick. And so then I was just like senior in high school, like, all right, I'm going to go for it. Yeah. I never, you know, I guess made it to the next level where like, I'm not retiring with, you know, a house on the beach or anything, but it's gotten me to age 35 and had never had like a full-time job. So I'm just trying to keep it going as long as I can to just keep surfing, because like it's almost come full circle. Like it's almost no longer like the pro surfing is like a job. I just am back where I started 20 years ago. Like I just love to surf and I want to keep surfing. So what can I do to keep this lifestyle going? And whether that be coaching or whether it be announcing surf contests, like I just want to be in the world of surfing a little bit, but not have to go, you know, sit in an office 9 to 5. And yeah,
don't do that. Try not to.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, I'm trying to keep it going as long as I can. Hopefully my my comedic skits take off and I'm just a famous comedian in another couple of years, because that'd be pretty funny.
That would be sick. But let me ask you a couple questions about this. You're a 14-year-old, 15-year-old normal Grom surfer going to high school. When you get on the cover and you go to school, how does everything change? Do people start to respect you more, or like, do people treat you differently?
Yeah, I definitely you get treated differently. I think
you're the talk of the town all of a sudden.
Yeah, it definitely made, you know, a bigger name for yourself in school as well. And some of it was good. I feel like, you know, like people who maybe didn't even give a fuck about surfing. Like they knew that you're the surfer. Oh, you're Austin. You're the surfer. Like, which is cool. Is like, oh, and I was always friends with a lot of the jocks and people outside of surfing in school anyway. I think some people took it as like a bit of a jealousy thing. Like they thought like, oh, you don't deserve that or whatever. Like, so like I noticed good things and bad things from it, but it was definitely cool. I didn't really care what anyone thought. I was just stoked that it happened to me.
Heck yeah.
I really couldn't believe it. I still kind of can't believe it. Like now that magazines are almost gone, it's like crazy to think like how much that changed my life over 20 years ago now. You know, we have a couple local mags and it's cool to get a shot or to get like a cover of that local mag, but it's just doesn't have that same feeling of like showing up in your mailbox. Like I think the first one I never even saw till it showed up, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like that's me. That's crazy. I miss the print era. It was a cool time in surfing, and just going to try to shoot photos specifically just to go into the magazines like your job. That was super fun. Whereas now I feel like you have to make an edit, or you have to formulate this whole trip, and there's not really anywhere for a lot of photos to go unless it's bought by a company that's going to run it as an ad, or you can make an edit that goes on a website or into a movie. But I don't know, there's just something cool about, especially when it was on slides, you would have to wait like 2 days for the film to get developed, and then go in the Lightroom and look at it through the little microscope. And yeah, it was just a really cool time having to wait to see your work, instead of now you do like a crazy error and it's already online before we even get home.
Yeah. Someone's posting that. Surfing today, like, does it still mean the same, or do you do it out of habit, or do you do it because you still love it? Like, how does surfing change over your life?
I think like definitely still just love it. I've definitely gotten a little more jaded with age as far as like surfing good waves, and especially cold weather and stuff. Like I find myself definitely not surfing on days where 10 years ago I would have been, just for the love of fully just going surfing. And sometimes it's even like I talk myself out of it because I think I'm over it. But if I ever do go out, I just end up being like, oh wow, this is so much better than watching TV on the couch, which is what I would have been doing right now anyway. So it's almost always the right call. Like sometimes you have those sessions where you're like, damn, I would have rather taken care of those 5 things on my checklist that I'm not doing instead of this. But yeah, I just love surfing, and I love traveling. That's sort of been my passion the last 5 years, is just saving up as much money as I can and then taking off for as long as I can to just go find waves and see new cultures and see new places. And yeah, so I've gotten to go on some really cool trips lately that are just all for me. It's not for a company. It's not on someone else's. Yeah, it's not. I have no pressure to be there surfing. So
you don't have to perform. You're there just to enjoy yourself.
I don't have to. Like I obviously want to get good waves, and I want to get good clips. And my girlfriend, who I've been traveling with a lot the last couple of years, she likes to film. So we do end up getting content, have some stuff to show for it, which is great. But also, like, if I wake up one day and the waves are kind of average, I don't have to go, grind out film clips, or I don't have to go shoot photos or wake up in the dark to go do that. I just do my own thing and go check out a waterfall, or go check out, something else cool that's in the area. And that's sort of like one thing that I am a little bit bummed that back when I was doing sponsor trips for so many years, it ended up being a little bit too much like surf. And I would go to these really cool places, but I wouldn't see anything else besides that beach that we were staying in front of. Not that much. Like sometimes, yes, but if we were exploring, it was maybe just to go get cool photos for the catalog or whatever it was for. Like
so
this was before. Yeah, it was sort of like before the days of lifestyle edits, which is sort of, I feel like that is one thing the kids have it good now, is like all the brands want those behind the scenes stuff. Whereas before it was so product based. It was like, you wear these board shorts and this shirt and you take this photo and we need it from this angle. And then we're going to go back surfing again. And it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some cool trips mixed in there back in the day, but I do wish that some of the places that I'd explored a bit more as a kid. And I think I didn't appreciate it as much when I was younger too. I just sort of was like, oh, cool, I'm going surfing here. And like, I'd come back and my mom would be like, oh, did you go to this? This is in that area. And I was like, oh no, we're just surfing, Mom. Like, that's what we were there for. Yeah. And now I'm like, damn, like I went there and, like, oh, the Great Barrier Reef was right next to me and I didn't even go check it out or whatever it was. Wow. Like something like that. But yeah, I'm super fortunate that like even back then I did get to see some cool places as a kid that growing up from, didn't have a lot of money to travel. I wouldn't have got to see like half or, probably most of the places that I did before I was 21. And so that's pretty cool.
What was your first like experience? Where'd you go?
My first traveling experience?
Like away from home, not Southern California, nothing big, maybe out of the country or something. Or you don't even remember?
I think like one of the first trips I did that was just like kind of complete like third world, which was, I mean, now it's like so blown up that it doesn't even seem like it's that far off of a place, is just Bali. But I was 17, and so that was 18 years ago. Bali was like still, compared to what it is now, like super raw. Yeah, like Karamas hadn't even really been hardly discovered. Like it was still a secret spot. There was one hut on the beach, and Canggu was just like one restaurant on the beach, and it was all rice fields. And looking at it now, like I've gone back every couple of years since then, and I've just watched it grow, and it's so out of control. Yeah, Kieran Horn, who you've probably heard of. He was he's like ex-pro surfer. He sort of took me and my good friend Matt Myers as the Groms, and he took us to Bali to go shoot with Nate Lawrence, and we stayed kind of by him. And I was 17, Matt was 18, and that was sort of like one of our big first out of the country trips, you know, without any reals. We had supervision because Kieran was there, but like he was sort of, you know, not our parents and not, you know, we had a little more leeway to like get into some mischief, and we had some fun times, and, so you know, then got to surf super good waves too. And that sort of like opened my eyes to the world of like, oh wow, like this is so different than America. Cause I'd been to like, even like Mexico before that and stuff. And Mexico is still not America, but it's not Indo. It's like, I don't know. It's a little more close to home. It doesn't feel that different. Indo was like a real eye-opening one where I was just like, okay, like I want to keep traveling. This is awesome.
Yeah. What kind of boards are you liking to ride? Have you changed your quiver over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I've changed my quiver like so much over the years, as far as especially like shapers go. In my late teens to early 20s, I was getting a lot of boards from like Chris Gallagher. That was pretty cool because he was originally from Santa Cruz, and then he moved to Hawaii. But he shaped really good boards, and that was
he surfed had a pretty too.
yeah, he was on the CT and
ripped.
Yeah, I got boards from him for a while, and then that kind of like fell through. Since then, I haven't really had like a continuous like, this is my shaper. It's sort of just been like, get boards from this guy or that guy or whatever. And yeah, I've pretty much tried everything under the sun. Right now, I just got a couple customs from this local guy who shapes his boards, Timber Surf Co. And he kind of does some like cool wooden, like artistic boards, but he's also getting into the high performance boards. So his boards have been going pretty well. I'm super stoked to be kind of working with a shaper again, because that was sort of something that I wasn't doing for a while, where it was just like, get a board
Does that make
Lost,
a difference?
or I mean, yeah, it makes a difference just to like be able to have feedback and give it to the person, and then have them go fine tune something and tweak it just a little bit. Whereas like, I feel like when you just order a custom board from a big brand, like they have their shapes and they're not really listening to what you want necessarily. They're just like, look,
makes sense.
We don't need you to tell us how to make a board, but like at least unless you're, you know, if you're like top guy who they're creating a board for a comp or something, like they're going to do that. But just for a sort of random person that's ordering a board, like, but yeah, I'm super stoked that, to be doing that again. And then sort of on the exact opposite side of it, I've been getting some of the boards from LibTech, which is like, they're like a snowboard brand, but they're making surfboards now. And they sort of collabed with Matt Biola. So they have a bunch of his shapes, and they're doing them in this like crazy construction that's like indestructible almost. You can like run it over with a car and the thing doesn't break. So those have been fun just to have in the quiver and bring on trips, because you always end up breaking all your boards, and then at least I know I'm pretty much going to have one that's left. So that's pretty sick.
Cool.
Yeah. So those are like the complete opposite of a custom. It's just like, it's a pop out, but I think they're actually hand shaped, but like you don't have any input. It's just like, you want this model or this model, and this is the size it comes in.
Okay. So the dimensions are already pre-done.
Yeah, everything's done. It just, you know, shows up at your doorstep or whatever. Yeah. If any shapers are out there listening and want to work with me, I'm always open. I'm here.
Right on.
yeah, to anyone listening out there, any Groms that are looking for inspiration, like just keep surfing. And like we were saying earlier, how you're asking, like, if I put pressure on myself, like don't try not to put pressure on yourself, and don't chase being a pro surfer, because if you just keep surfing and do your thing, and people will start recognizing you if you're doing something that is meant to be recognized. But trying to force it is just going to end up going down a slippery slope where you're going to start disliking the act of surfing. And it just really bums me out when I see kids burn out, because I want everyone to surf for their whole lives and enjoy it. And yeah, that's just, I guess, my word of advice. But
those are good words,
thanks.
man.
Thank you. Oh, and shout out to Tack Apparel. My good friend Ben K makes these really cool, like he has this brand. It's called Tack, TAC. Yeah, they're Santa Cruz based. He's got super cool art, and he's been supporting me the last couple of years as well. So,
just like what's he doing?
Just a local dude. He's actually a skimboarder more than a surfer, but he surfs as well. And so yeah, he started the brand Tack. It's like Third Ave crew. Him and his buddies like grew up on Third Avenue in Santa Cruz skimboarding. Yep. Yeah, just he's a really good graphic designer, so he makes all these really cool art that he puts on the shirts and the hats. And yeah, he's living in Maui. I'm hopefully going to go visit him at the end of the month. So Ben, I don't think you know this yet, but I'm coming.
Right on. All right, Austin, thank you so much for coming on the Quivercast.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me, Mike. I appreciate it. Cool. Well, yeah.
All right, everybody. This is Mike and Austin, and we're out of here. Later.
Boys and girls hanging round, surfers going up and down. That's when I caught my wave, knew what to do. Surf that wave right to the shore, and it's dreams come true. Fantastic sunny day, boys and girls hanging around, surfers going up and down. When I caught my wave, knew what to do. Surf that wave right to the shore, and yes, my dream came true.
Hey, you guys. Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic. Numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip. From the original print, you will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.